But then you look at some of the other teams. I mean, Vitality got third. To me, this isn't even a fucking third place. This felt like a fourth place. Like, I
know what you mean.
I don't think in any world they're beating G2 if they played in like the series afterwards. I mean, I think G2 would have just beat Mad Lions if they banned Gragas. Legitimately, I think it was that one ban away. So even though G2 technically got fourth, I feel like they could have ran the gauntlet. Whoever won that series, I think could have just won the whole thing, because G2 just, I mean, obviously if they started being, if they opened up drafts and they did the same mistakes versus BDS, maybe then they lose to BDS. It just looked like Vitality was completely lifeless. And there's just a huge difference between teams that figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are and the teams that don't. I mean, when you look at Vitality, how could you ever come to the conclusion that those drafts would be the best for your players? You have fucking Bo on your team, and like you're playing Maokai every game.
You would almost think they let the opponent make the draft, because think about this. Remember what the complaint we had last split was before they got upset? It's like, top side of the map's great, bot side shit. You ruined the whole top side of the map in these drafts. Like, you took Photon, a player that, in my opinion, almost never looked bad, and he looked the worst he has ever looked in LE. In fact, he actually looked dominant. He didn't even play some of these champions. It was mental. Like, I can't understand it as well, because he has, as far as I can tell, he has a champion Ocean. And then the same thing with Bo. Mate, they turned Bo into the joke. Like, all those people flaming him when it was last split. The joke is this split when he played shit. Now, mate, he looked terrible. He looked terrible. Yep. I agree, but it's not even just the players play. What is the coach doing putting him on those champions, mate? Like, I'd be going the other way. I'd be going to discomfort,
It's funny because this is like the one time in Upset's career where you get into the crucial moments that the team is not playing through Upset. Yep. And when I watch it, I'm like, they should have just played like more bot side and played through Upset. Also, I mean,
even though every dumbass fan, you know this, they must be in your chat, Dom. Every dumbass fan still has that take about Upset where they go, the thing with Upset is you can only play through him and then you don't win. And they just leave it like that. They don't add in, like, because in the other lanes you've got like Abadak. They don't say that. They just make it sound like he had fucking like, they make it sound, bro, like he had primed the shy rookie, but then he was like, you know what? Give it all to me, Upset, and then I'm just going to lose. Like, because the joke is they didn't even do that, like you say. They had mate, for real, my only speculation is this. I actually feel like something happened to Vitality and Scrims in that group stage, mate. Because as soon as they got to the playoffs, they were just so fucking whack, even in draft, mate. Like, whatever conception they had of their team is just gone.
Yep.
Like if we went the other way, if we did our cynical drafting, but we cynically drafted for Vitality, look, I'm not saying they'd win all the games, but they'd be in them. They'd have a chance to.
Yeah, it's so weird. What's so strange about Vitality is they just look like a North American team. They look like a North American super team. If you think about, even when these teams started popping up in NA in like season 5, for example, the fucking Team Liquid that I was on, isn't it the same thing where like all the players, it's like, well, individually they look fine, but what the fuck are they doing together? Like, they just have no synergy at all. They have no one wants to play together. They have no identity. You look at the Team Liquid roster from last year, it was the same thing. You look at this fucking Team Liquid roster this year, I mean, Vitality might as well just be the European Team Liquid. They might as well just be European Team Liquid with the way that they construct rosters and just the way that the teams decide on play. And what's so strange is there seems to be like a terrible mentality within the team when it comes to stage games. Like there's an overreaction, or there's something wrong with the way that they approach stage games. Because afterwards, I'm like, wow, this team looks like shit. They must have like scrimmed like shit. And I asked some of the other teams, and apparently Vitality was like probably the second best scrim team after G2. They were just like smurfing scrims. Like, other teams just couldn't fucking win a game versus them. Then they come in and they just get 0-3 and they just look horrible.
By the way,
they get 0-3 by BDS, look horrible.
If people don't know, he actually did fair play follow up, and Romain did show that actually apparently it was the same thing. G2 was still cracked in scrims and everyone was still cancelling. So here's my obvious question to Romain and the coaching staff of Vitality. If you win everybody scrim, just maybe draft some of the stuff from the scrims. Like, what? It's like they go like, right, well, we've won all the scrims, but here's the thing, Dom. They'd expect us to draft this. We got a 700 IQ, underwater, 70 Jenga. Let's tell you what, draft some shit we don't even play, because I don't know what they were doing in these playoffs. I'm with you as well, by the way. I also think G2 just chose to almost lose that series. Like, it's so bizarre to me. So
I feel like it's like they played the scrims and they have the results from the scrims. They have like all the stats, but they don't watch the scrims at all. So they just like have the stats and they're like, we win on everything. So I guess we could just draft anything. Like, it's just one of those types of things instead of actually honing down what is our strength as a team. Like, what you want to do is you want to find the players that have strengths that will complement other players on your team's weaknesses. That's the whole fucking puzzle you're trying to put together. So if Bo actually sucks on Maokai, which he looks like he just fucking sucks on Maokai, like he just can't make it work, right? If Bo sucks on Maokai, then set him up to play something else. If you need to play a slightly worse bot lane and you need to play like a tank support, or you need to like draft a Braum in a not ideal Braum situation in order to get Bo a good Kindred game or something like that, just do that. Like you need to be enabling the players that are good on your team. And I feel like the way that the team ended up functioning towards the end didn't make any sense to me. I feel like Perkz should be the guy that's playing utility. He shouldn't be the guy on Tristana. He should be the guy that's playing Lissandra and just these like brain dead, like, easy setup champions. And then Bo should be on these fucking carries that he could take over the whole game with. And it should be like Viego Lissandra, get Bo a reset and just watch him mechanically take over a fight. That's what I would think would be a better style, just thinking about what Vitality is as a team. But it's like they don't do any of that. They decided that their player that seems to have the worst communication with his lanes is the utility player. And then the players that like know the game extremely well will be the carries. I just don't understand it.
I know what you mean, because I do feel like for Perkz, I almost feel like the comparisons with Caps, like Perkz himself gets into that shit, because it's like he still seems to think that he has to like be the carry of the game from lane or something, which is like, if anything, the thing I love about Perkz in the modern day is I put him more like in the Faker Xiaohu class, Dom, where like what I love about them is they don't have to carry from lane. In fact, their whole shit is like, I'm going to play the pick that makes sense for my team, and then I'm going to find a late game moment where I'm going to apply all this absurd experience I have and get a flank or a pick or a catch or help a teammate. Like, you don't need that. Like, as you say, you could do that on Alessandra. You could do that on one of these champions. Or Annie even. You could just be on some shit like that. You don't have to be on the fucking Tristana and try and carry the game. Yeah. You don't have to be Caps, mate.
Well, when you think about when Vitality was at their best, right? Their strategy was to have these setup champions mid. So they would play things like Annie mid, and then in previous splits, they would just play whatever was in the meta that Perkz would be able to work with his jungler on. So it was a Zero at a point, because a Zero at post 6, you can like shuffle the guy and get a kill. And then they would have Photon be weak side perma. They would never visit Photon's lane. They'd be like, all right, you take your Gwen, your Cassante, whatever, your Gnar. You play up there, you just do your own thing, and we're going to like play heavily through mid jungle. That was their whole identity. That's what they were winning on. And when you look at these finals, it was the opposite. It was like, we're going to play, these carry tops. Bo's going to try to gank top. Mid never gets any resources. I think Perkz, like, look, obviously the whole team is not playing well, but I think Perkz gets like such an unfair amount of criticism in these games, because if you watch the games, Hilly is mid the entire fucking game. Hilly's mid from like level 2 to level fucking 6. And when I see this happen, I'm like, what is happening bot lane? How does Hilly get to move on every single wave? So when you're playing Tristana and you can't pressure, like you stack a wave and you can't pressure, and the TF just gets the free farm it, and then you go back into the lane, like you get chased around, you miss experience, you come back, and you have to like restabilize the lane, get yourself into another advantageous position, and then try to exploit it again. Like the TF is just going to be able to start porting around the map. He's just going to have these windows where he can act. And I don't know why all the pressure just gets to be relieved from mid lane perma. So I don't know what is happening in the bot lane where Hilly can move all the time, but it makes like no sense to me. It makes no sense that they're allowed to play, that Bad Lions was allowed to have pressure in as many lanes as they did. Like, I just don't understand how the map can work like that. What are these bot matchups? These bot matchups don't look unplayable. So how does Hilly get to be mid on every wave?
Here's the question then, Dom. So I know, because I've seen you, there was a clip that you were talked about this already. Obviously, the rumor in Europe is there's going to be this crazy like support swap where not only is Vulcan going to come and join the league, but then there's going to be a bunch of like, this guy goes to this team, then this guy, and then they pick this, right? So the question is, do Vitality, do you think, replace Kaiser? And if so, is that enough? Because to me, like, he wasn't bad, but there's another thing I would try. Because the thing with super teams as well is this. I hate it when people have super teams, Dom, and they try one variation and then scrap the whole team. Because in my opinion, the reason it's a super team is you've got a bunch of really good players. Even changing one player can change the entire dynamic. We already saw that with Upset, but I feel like if you got the right support in here, that's an interesting team immediately. So what do you think on that angle?
I mean, it just depends on who you can get and what the player strength is going to be. I still don't know who Kaiser is, because when I watch him play, I just don't feel like he's the same player that he was before. I don't know if he's just really uncomfortable within the team, but he used to be the guy that was like able to outperform Hylissang in some of these big moments. Like he was the guy that when he was like peaking in like 2021, or when he was playing really well, he was more active on the map. He was able to do things that now I don't know if it's because Upset wants him in lane more, but Upset played with Hilly too. So I don't know what the issue is, why they don't synergize. so well, but when you just look at bot lane, it just doesn't look like they have any ability to play together. They don't make each other better in any way. They kind of just exist bot lane, like even in farm versus Carzzy, and then they show up to team fights and they're like misplaying some of the team fights. So it's very weird to see how they play. I think that it's one of those situations where the team is playing so bad that, like, because this is what everyone wants to do. Everyone wants to just say Upset is bad, Perks is bad, Bo is bad, well, if they're all fucking bad and they ended up fucking third place, then holy shit, your region sucks. Then your region just fucking sucks. Like, you should just stop watching it. Like, that's my take there. So clearly not all the players are fucking bad. They play bad together. So what is the reason they're playing bad together? That's what you have to fucking, that's what you need
you know,
to
you know, when you say it like
out.
that, I hadn't thought you actually have checkbaited them there, Dom. Because here's the dumbest thing they do with Vitality, because it is kind of a super team. You're right. In a normal team, like think about me. Normally what I do is there'll be a really good Fnatic team where almost everyone's good. And then I'll pick Reckless and go, he isn't that good. But part of how I infer he isn't that good, guys, is I say stuff like, he has like Prime Hillsong. Like, what the fuck? He has like, you know, caps mid or expect. I don't go, he sucks, but all his teammates suck as well. But that means he sucks more. Because think about it, right? How simultaneously, because they do this stuff, right? Because they say we overrated Bo, they're desperate for Bo to be shit in every game. Perks, they've been saying is shit for literally 3 straight years now. That's not a joke. 3 straight years, guys. And then Upset, they obviously hate on him anyway from the other teams. They all play the same team. Guys, if they're all shit, then like, first of all, you guys must just be so upset because the entire world of League must just seem so unfair. Everyone's overrating all these players. But then as Dom says, how are they ever in the position they're in? Like, how are they winning a million scrims? How are they a top team? How are they in a position like this? Yeah, they should be terrible by that logic. They should be like 8th place or something, 7th place, right? Doesn't really make sense, does it? Someone's got to be good at some point, guys. Pick, like, here's the thing. At least pick one player to hate. You can't hate 3 out of 5 and then say the team's totally shit. Like, in that case, someone's carrying.
They don't even like the other players, though. They don't even think like Kaiser is good. Like, they just think that Bo, Upset, and Perks are all bad. I mean, Photon had a horrible series. Photon had a really, really terrible series, but it's just not his style also. Like, I don't know where the Rumble
I've never seen him play like that, though, dude. That's the thing. The difference is that one, because of how he's played in all the other games for the rest of this split and last split, I'll easily run that back with him, mate. Like, I don't look at that guy. He's doomed. Like, I just think that was just the weirdest series I've ever seen him play, mate. It didn't look like the same player to me.
Yeah, it was extremely strange. I don't know. Even the way the series started off was so strange. Like, Bo is just invading his Maokai. Like, like in theory, you could logic yourself into that invade being good, where you're like, oh, well, you had mid prio and bot prio. So when you have mid prio and bot prio, it's fine to invade. But like, it's just a solo queue invade where you know that, okay, yeah, I mean, we have prio, but the other guy can get here first. Like, prio doesn't mean you're like, if you have prio and you're blue side and your support is at their turret, unless your support can literally walk through the fucking turret, the other enemy support is closer to you on the map. He could just walk through his tri-bush and just come to you. And especially when you consider the champions that you're playing there, where I believe you're on Nami, you have Nami on your team, and the other guy is Nautilus. Like, that is the situation that Nautilus wants. So if anything, all you're doing there is you're like throwing a couple saplings, you're finding where the enemy jungler is, and then you're just leaving and continuing to farm. You're just allowing your team to get vision of the enemy jungler so you know where he is, so that your team can keep on playing in the abusive manner they want to play with Lucian, Nami, and all this type of stuff. These are the things that you'd expect, but then it becomes a fight to the death. And then, like, even the fight, the synergy on the fight is terrible because Bo actually he Maokai Qs the Vi out of the poison. And there was a bunch of mechanical misplays there, right? But the fact that Bo knocked them out of the poison means that they don't even trade. If he didn't knock him out of the poison, Elyoya just dies there. And it's like 1 for 1. People lose summoners. It's not good for your game, but at least the situation is somewhat stabilized. Then again, if Mad Lions just chained the, Vi flash Q into the charm, then Bo probably insta-dies before getting Aftershock. I mean, the mechanics of it were just bad. But watching that situation, it was just bad on all fronts. And I feel like that the way that they started the series was it just put you in such a weird mindset. You're like, what the fuck are they doing? Then they have that horrible first game. Perks dies like 9 times in the game. He's just getting Vi Ari ulted on cooldown. It was extremely weird to watch.
Do you think Bo is a bit brain dead? Because sometimes, like, he can be genius, but sometimes it looks like he just doesn't say no to any play, mate. He just goes for it.
No, I don't think he's brain dead. I think that he's actually like.
What do you think his issue
mechanics
is?
Are good. I think his issue is that he's like trying to cosplay like a jungler that he thinks his teammates want to like play with. I think that he's doing things that like he thinks other people want him to do, but in reality they would just want him to perform fucking well. So like he's walking into the enemy jungle trying to provide like vision for like on the enemy jungle. But like, I don't feel like he should do. I think he should literally like play like solo queue. Like if you guys die to a bot gank, then I'm gonna take his fucking top side and I'm just gonna be really strong in the game. Like I think that he should make all the decisions that he makes in solo queue in competitive. I don't think the game is as different as they're trying to make it seem.
I know what you mean, because if people don't know, beyond rare examples, and by the way, you'll notice actually these people tend to even have problems back in Korea, like the piglets of the world. If you're not one of those like unusual Koreans, by default, Asian players I've found, when they come to the West, because they're used to the idea you're supposed to be polite, they will be too accommodating sometimes in that sense. Like I've heard of tons of stories of Koreans that were imports, like doing what you're saying. Like the coach finds out towards the end of the split, like, wait a minute, you didn't want to play at this ever? And he's like, no, not really. I thought that was my job to do that because you guys asked. And it's like, no, we were just having a discussion and like draft. You could have pushed back and said like, no, like, but the players like trying to be too accommodating in a way. I almost feel like some of that's bore. Because like, put it this way, we gave him props when he played that one good Maokai game like last split, but it's clearly not his fucking champion style, is it? Like, as you say, if this guy's in solo queue, he just picks all the aggro shit and just dominates. Like, why not play it now?
He played it way better the first time that they played Mad Lions. And that's what makes Vitality this feel like such a choke from them, is that they were better than Mad Lions all year, like up until this point. Like every time they played Mad, they just had Mad Lions number. Mad didn't really have a good chance to win any of these games that they played the first 4 times they met. So it's a team that you've beat over and over again, and you don't need to be like someone else in order to beat them. Just play your own fucking game. Just play your own game. You don't need to do all this stuff that is just like, that's a way to enable good leaders. If you have a bad jungler, that's what you do, is you have the enemy jungler just go find the other jungler and just stare at him and throw saplings and be like, oh, you can't play the game, I can't play the game. Nice. 1 for 1. Both the junglers are out and our lanes are just going to win.
Yes.
Which was kind of the strategy earlier with a lot of the picks that people were playing when people were playing all this Jace mid and things like this. Sure. I mean, I get that's a viable way to play League of Legends, but I just think in general now you're just taking away from what your biggest strength should be, which is that your jungler like knows how to fucking get ahead. Like your jungler knows how to get ahead, and the other players are generally, outside of Perks, I think the other players are actually really good around playing are really good at playing around the enemy jungler. So I just don't think that it makes sense. Perks does die to shit that he shouldn't die to, but that can't gaslight you as a jungler into like forcing you to do things that are not normal because you're so scared your player's gonna die. If Perks fucking is gonna int the whole series, if he's gonna die to every fucking gank, then you're just gonna lose. Like, just lose like that, but at least have some strength anywhere instead of trying to cover this flaw by walking and finding the enemy jungler every single time you can see him.
Also, Perks has always been a fucking mid laner that was susceptible to ganks. It's just his style, like, so it's not even that big a deal. Like I say, his whole style's ain't come back late anyway. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.